Everything all right? Hi, I'm Russ Moyer, the president of Eagle Worldwide Ministries and your host on the Prophetic Edge. I'm so glad you joined us today. And what a beautiful moment in time it is. And Holy Week 2024, Easter week, and just having Palm Sunday last week, and just walking through the moments of Passion Week with Christ is an amazing and wonderful thing. And I'm so excited to be here with you. And in this moment in time, there are so many things that are happening all over the earth. There's been an acceleration of things, an acceleration of time. Things are happening quickly and falling into place. Promises that were foretold years ago. And people who have waited and pressed in and tarried are all of a sudden seeing the promises fulfilled right before their eyes. Remarkable and amazing things are happening in the hearts of people everywhere, all over the earth. Let's not get confused with what is actually happening only right here in our city, in our town, in our church, in our family, in our ministry. But let's try to look at it from a little better vantage point. Let's look at it from a kingdom perspective. So that we're looking at it from the positioning in the eyes of the king and his kingdom. So that we can look at it from a place of victory rather than a place of challenge. Certainly life and this season in time presents amazing challenges, but it's also pregnant with opportunity. It's what's my perception? What's my vantage point? Where am I looking at this from? And I want to look at it through the eyes of the King of Glory, who's about ready right now for the greatest moment in history that every prophet prophesied about. So I want to look at it from there. I want to make my choices based on Jesus Christ, who is the same yesterday, today, and forever, but tells us and shows us and guides us and directs us by his Spirit and by his love into proper alignment and positioning in every season. I just got back from a week in the Arctic, in the Quebec Arctic, actually, this time. What a wonderful and amazing time I had. You know, actually, I was there celebrating with Coot, the Living Waters, Streams of Living Waters Fellowship of Churches and Ministers, and also with Arctic Missions, who we have partnered with over the last 20 years. This is 20 years I've been going north. Arctic Missions has been our partner there, and we work together with them. David Elliott is the wonderful man of God who first invited me in and brought me there. And I've lost track of how many visits and villages that I've been to, how many conferences. This conference that we just did was the annual Bible conference that normally we hold during Easter week, which made it so many of us over the years, I've done numerous ones of those, and made it so I was not at my home church during Easter week. So they moved it up this year, and it worked out beautifully. And also with us there was David Elliott, who has been there with Arctic Missions for more than 27 years. He's a powerful and wonderful man of God from London, Ontario. Him and his wife, Joan, headed up Arctic Missions all this time. They are in the midst of a transition now with a gentleman named Bert Kwake, who is wonderful and has been working with David and been on the board for many, many years. And they're walking a transition out together. David actually walked in the footsteps of John Spellner. Arctic Missions Outreach Trust Fund was founded by John Spellner. I met John 24 years ago. I think it was in 2000 or 2001. I was doing a luncheon for Gospel Crusade leaders, which is a network and fellowship of ministers there in Canada. And we were all at different tables, and I was at a table. I was going to be the speaker. There was about 10 of us at that table. During the time that we're having lunch, this one gentleman, who I was just introduced to as John, began to tell me stories that were absolutely phenomenal, amazing testimonies that bore witness in my heart, that were anointed, and about the North, about the Arctic, about the people of the North, about the Inuit. Things and stories I had never heard. Well, that period of time, all through lunch, it was just a wonderful time. And he, not only was he anointed, but he was genuine and down to earth. So now, they call me up to minister to the leaders. And they introduced me, and I said, hey, you guys have the wrong guy up here. I said, I was just sitting at the table with this brother John, and he told me some of the most amazing testimonies I have ever heard in my whole life. You don't want to listen to me. This man should be speaking. And they all started laughing because they knew who he was and I didn't. I come to find out that his name was John Spillner. He was a veteran aviator and missionary to the North. Him and his wife, Ty, their ministry was been to the native people in the Canadian North since he was called to go north and preach the gospel in 1936. In 1950, they started Northland Missions work, and since that time, the Spellners have founded 2 more ministries in the North, but the one that I was always affiliated with, that he passed on to David Elliott, who has done a phenomenal job in the last 27 years to just take the people and the leaders to a brand new and wonderful level. This ministry was involved directly and indirectly in building and birthing 18 churches in the Arctic over the years. David Elliott and his wife Joan are also part of the Independent Assemblies of God and has been their treasurer there for many, many years. He lives in London, Ontario, and of course I've been affiliated in relationship with the Independent Assemblies there for many years as well. We had a wonderful time. CUT, K-U-U-T, is a network of Inuit leaders and churches that it's about living water flowing, rivers of living water flowing. And they are wonderful, and that's the connecting point of how we all work together as one in unity and harmony, and have had that for the last 20 years or more. You know, as you look at what happens there, Arctic Missions is a registered charity, and they look after a lot of the affairs in the North that help the churches and support them in so many wonderful ways. A number of years ago, we did a North Winds conference in Copetown, Ontario. That was tremendous, and many of the leaders and the people from the North came down and visit with us. They toured one of the facilities in Hamilton, which was at one time a residential school, and another one that actually was a hospital where people went to when they had tuberculosis, and a lot of people in the north were sent there for treatment and help and care. And it was a time of great healing because not only did good things happen, but if you know anything about the residential school era, there were also many things that happened that were not good. So it became a great healing time. And we had an opportunity to host that in our camp meeting and did a North Winds conference for a whole week. We also did a school at the Spirit Ministries Training Center in the North where we had a Bible school, because many of the pastors that were leading had never been to Bible school. They learned from John Spillner and David and others, and over the years, a couple of them had gone off to school but come back. But of course, the distance problems and the logistics are so difficult. Travel, there are so many challenges. There are wonderful benefits and great things that happen there. There have been tremendous moves of the Spirit there. In fact, Coot, that we work very closely with, was the part of the move of the Spirit that happened in Pond Inlet with Pastor Moses Kayak and James and Louis Arate, and even Bobby Deere and Pastor Andy, Pastor Liv, so many of them that are in the North. If you know anything about that that season where it just swept through, they made the movies all about it, a tremendous move of the Spirit, evangelistic and intimate and wonderful. It changed the natural realm and the spiritual realm, and it was highlighted with a video that went around the world many, many times. That happens to be the group that we've been working with the last 20 years. Pastor Bobby, Pastor Andy, Pastor Moses, James and Louis, Pastor Maggie, who now heads up the group, Pastor Sammy and Henry and Elizabeth, and so many more that are there. And each of the little villages, and some are sizable, like Iqaluit is a large city in the New Territory, the capital of that. And then you have smaller city communities for healing, like features. Can I share with you the pristine beauty of what you see there? When you look at it in the wintertime, and the winter, I asked about when the summer was, and they said June 15th, July 15th, and don't sleep in. But they have snow on the ground up there now, but it was beautiful and crisp and pristine, and it was, you'd look out on the water, and sometimes you see icebergs and people on their winter vehicles. In the summertime, they're out on their boats and kayaks and everything else. Just, they live off the land, they hunt, they fish. They are the people of the North. They are the gatekeepers of North America in the North. They are the Northern Lights, the Christian community there. And the way they cooperate and work together, even with other organizations that have pioneered in different regions, all the way from out in Yellowknife, all the way through to Greenland, where Eva and her inner healing team have been going recently, not just to bring the gospel, but also to bring healing to the people that are there. They operate a healing center, an inner healing ministry, and a wonderful, Eva and Bobby Deere are two of the most wonderful people I've ever been around, and they've had a profound effect on their own people. They are leaders, guiders, directors, ministers. They've been involved in the school system, the political system. I mean, they are totally engaged. Bobby, from his beginning, is Bobby, from his very beginning, and his roots are as a Mohawk native, and he married Eva Deer from Quatak. And they've been together, have a beautiful family, wonderful church, ministry, history, business. He's a wonderful businessman, and they sit on the boards of the North that relate governmentally back to the provinces and back to the federal government. So they're very, very, very key people. Most of the spiritual leaders are also governmental leaders in their community. And even if not governmental, they are community leaders that are active in the welfare development having to do with education and healthcare, transportation, communication. What I've seen in the last 20 years there is the most wonderful and magnificent growth and development of any people group that I've been around. 20 years ago, we landed on stone runways. Today, they're beautiful, wide runways. The airports have grown. The equipment that they use and the airlines that they own is better. Air Arctic and all of them. Air Inuit. And the people are involved in the progress. They're also involved in the mining. Right now, as you may know, worldwide, there is a huge amount of interest in the big 5 nations about taking and being involved in the Arctic, because they're interested in the phenomenal natural resources that are available in the North, some of which certainly benefits the Inuit, but some things have caused a hardship for them as well. Just the way the First Nations people had their trail of tears when they were conquered by the American military. And they marched them across the country and all the devastating things that happened. There's been that style of devastation as well in the North and anywhere else that I know of where there's been colonization. You're going to see the good, the bad, the different, the ugly, because people are people, and people make mistakes. And I was involved over the last 20 years with a few different groups, including the First Nations, people like Kenny Blythe-Smith, Barry Miracle, and others, that crossed the nation with the Inuit, the Métis, and the First Nations people. And they went across with a forgiveness conference, and they went across the country with another healing conference, and made governmental reconciliation the best that they could to try to resolve those issues and try to help promote better conditions on the reserves in Canada and in the North. Having seen and worked firsthand with them over the years, they are lovely people. They are wonderful people. They're tremendous. They've all experienced different kinds of issues and problems, and still are today. There have been atrocities. There have been great benefits. There has been great growth and development. There are wonderful community leaders raised up as lawyers and politicians and doctors, educators from amongst the different tribes and tongues and people groups there. They're wonderful to work with. They are extremely talented. Their artwork and their music, they are tremendous musicians and singers. And they do art and crafts that are amazing, like soapstone up in the Arctic. And all the beautiful things that they do across the First Nations community, working within their native crafts, celebrating their traditions and cultures. They each have a native language or more than one at times that they speak, Up in the north, in that area, probably in Quebec North, probably French is second, English is third, probably just the opposite if you go into the new territory where Callowit is. So, it's very different, very diverse. Their clothes and garb are tremendous. Like, they made me some beautiful gloves and things and wear coats and boots, all made of different animals that are available there, because they hunt and they fish and they use the entire animal catch for clothing, for food, for everything. Nothing's wasted. They are tremendous environmentalists. They love the land and they honor the land, and they don't abuse the land. The abuse comes actually with the penetration from the south that comes in, that, the trophy hunters and the exploit people that are coming in for financial gain. The Inuit themselves and the First Nations people that I've seen on the different native reserves, like Six Nations, or even when you go further out to the Key Reserve with Alan O'Soup, that we spent a lot of time with him and his family and tribe. We've gone all across the north. They are people who try to protect the land. They value the land. They honor the land. They're not out there trying to hurt it. So let's get it straight. Most of the regulations actually affect them when they are the best, in most cases, environmentalists, because of their love for the land and respect for it. So they've had a lot of hardship over the years. They've had a journey. In the future, we decided that we're going to do some Northern Lights gatherings and videos that talk about this phenomenal journey across the Arctic and across the years and across the generations. The Northern Lights are something to behold that I can't describe in the natural. You have to see the Northern Lights. If you haven't seen them yet, go online, take a look. They're absolutely amazing. And but the greatest treasure of all that I've seen in the North is the hidden treasure of the Inuit people themselves. Their culture, tradition, their talent, their ability, their humility. There are not just survivors, they strive. They've had to conquer nature and everything about it. The one time I went to visit up in Pond Inlet and did a conference there with Pastor Moses, it was 28 degrees minus. You could feel the icicles in your nose. The ground was crisp under your feet. The air was as perfectly clean and clear as it could be. It was beautiful. That's the high Arctic. That's all the way in the top, Baffin Island. I'm talking about on top of the world. You can't get any higher than that. That's the high Arctic. Some people that are in the Arctic, that are in the north, when they talked to Pastor Moses, they said, oops, Moses is from the real Arctic because he's so high. I've been working with him. He's been such a good friend of mine. He's a bishop there. He was a former Anglican priest who got saved by the power of the Holy Spirit, got baptized in water, began to minister to other Anglican priests and brought them out of traditional church. And they were baptized in the Holy Spirit and began to start under the leadership and direction of John Spillner and David Elliott in Arctic Missions over the years. Continued to birth churches and works and just an amazing, wonderful network of people. So, some of their clothing is sealskin, and when they take a seal, they eat the meat, they use every single part of it, and they clean up their mess, and they use it in a way that beautifies their culture, and they celebrate their culture. We opened the event with a beautiful candle lighting of a candle set that they used to use in the north when visitors came to open events, as a welcoming thing, not having to do necessarily with spiritual events, but all events. When people got together, because amazing time for them to meet, to talk. So they started off with that ceremony, and it was so wonderful to watch, to see the development and the young people. They probably a third of their population is 25 and under, and they're developing now. One of the problems they have is that technology has jumped up there, and so have the food and issues and the even health issues that have gone there, the remote conditions. The young people have an opportunity to watch what's going on in the rest of the world, and of course that causes some internal emotional issues for young people. And when they see what's a potential in the world and then in their little community, so that it does cause some of them to come out of the north and out of the culture to go in other cultures around the world. Any place I've been with the Inuit or visited with them, like when we went to Europe together or other places in Israel, in Florida, anytime I'm with them, there's just something about them that attracts everyone's attention. And they love them instantly, and they relate to them. They are the Aboriginal people, and there's something very special about them that I can't tell you exactly in words, but I can tell you it is tangible. And they are wonderful, and they're impactful, they have a great deal of wisdom. Their education system has been improving over the last 20 years. Their younger generation probably is moving more and more into English language because of the computer and internet situations. They are still a little bit behind us, but they are catching up quickly as their young people want to know more and more, and as these 5 superpowers want to come in and have an impact. And I'm hoping that the impact they're looking for has a proper motive, and not the motive that has been used in other seasons and by other people that have come to the north, who came for what they could take rather than what they could bring to the greatest resource of the north, the hidden treasures, which are the Inuit people, who are near and dear to my heart. So I hope they're coming in with the right motive. Certainly you can see all the potential with the black diamonds and oil, gas, all the kinds of resources and mines that you could find. It is abundantly full of natural underground resources, of which the Inuit have very little access to and have to work through old treaties and developing new treaties now and agreements with those that actually do the mining and the work. So there is still that cultural and political clash that has to be worked through. And they do their best. And some of the people that I named are some of the people that are really in the forefront, that are fighting for the rights of the people, not just now, but long term, and how to train them for employment, and how to train them to win, to succeed, how to produce jobs that are not only related to the land, but are related to serving the people that come in, and to the mining people. So it's the whole culture is diversifying and improving. The progress that I've seen in the last 20 years is the most remarkable progress I've seen anywhere I've traveled in the world. I salute them for the tremendous gains that they've made. Now we're planning and getting ready and setting a date here in the South and in Florida and Alabama, where we're going to host a North Winds conference, and Northern Lights conference, and we're also going to hold one in New Brunswick at our hub center there called the Worship Barn. So we're working on a couple of new situations, and certainly we're planning some wonderful things with them, going north to meet them. So I just wanted to talk with you a little bit about them because they're such a fascinating people group and such a wonderful people. They've visited us back and forth in Canada and the United States more times, and they were partnered with us some at the camp, and they had a camp model unit there that when the people from the north came down, they gathered there, and it was theirs, and it was beautiful. The way we partnered and walked and worked together, it's just been one of the most amazing and fruitful and encouraging things that I've done in 20 years of ministry. The Lord has blessed me with sons and daughters and natural success and spiritual success and fruitfulness. But I believe that my years in the Arctic was actually the thing that was very, very dear and near to my heart, and an amazing experience that I will be forever grateful to the Lord for, and for the relationships that I've established there with the people and the leaders and the people of Arctic Missions. And John Spillner, in addition to being an aviator, and he flew in when there was nothing there. I met him that day, and he was telling me these stories. And he would fly in the midst of, he was his own pilot. He was also his own mechanic. He did everything he did on faith, and people would buy him equipment and repair stuff, and he'd fly in, and he told stories that have been documented, all about, if I don't tell you about John, I miss an opportunity to tell you about one of the true pioneers of the North. You can find out more about him in the book that he wrote. And he was just an amazing man of God, interdenominational ministry. He would fly in, and sometimes, they're flying in on stone runways or just cleared land at that time into small villages. And of course, in the process of landing them, sometimes there'd be accidents and mishaps. And it would extend his stay in the village because he had to do the mechanical work himself and had to send for parts. They also would land on the waterways and lakes and big ocean areas and inlets that were there. They'd land on the water and land on the ice. And this man would go into their villages, him and his wife, and the people who followed after him, like David Elliott, Donna Parisham from Eagle Worldwide Ministries, that when you see the hands-on, boots on the ground work that they've done in harsh conditions, I commend you. And some of the people in our ministry have gone. Reed Grassick, who has led teams up to help build or renovate churches on numerous occasions, large projects. And go John Irving from village to village, meeting with people in small groups. That's how John started all of these churches, how John Spellner started them. He would go into the community and he would stay there with them. And of course, back then they had dog sleds and dogs. They still have dogs and dog sleds and dog sled races, and they still use them some. And they have hunting cabins out on the land. And when they go fishing, especially if they go fishing for like beluga whale, or if they go fishing for walrus. They find a perch and they set it up as a hunting station that overlooks the flow, where they know that these huge fish are moving in. And they track them. And then they set them up. And then they use high-powered weapons, because these are huge. These are beluga whales and walruses that are 10, 12 feet, huge animals. And then they send boats out and they bring them in. They rope them and bring them into shore. They drive the boats as far as they can. And then they bring four-wheel vehicles and they tie ropes to their catch. And they pull it up onto the beach with the four-wheeler. The boat goes back out. They pull it up as far as they possibly can. And then when the tide goes out, they begin to work on their catch. And they completely use every part and take it apart. And the hunters get first pick, then the community chest, then other people in the area, and they come down, and the community begins to take the catch and bring back the part they want for their own family use or community use. Or if there's, they almost all have a community chest that if you're hungry, it's just full with fish, with Arctic char, with all types of fish, all types of game, and, including caribou. And they're outside chests, so they're frozen. And people just go in and can take what they need and help one another that way. Plus, each family has their own chest and things that they keep, for emergency situations as they store their food in larger amounts than what's typical that we see down here. These guys are incredible hunters and fishermen. And not just the guys, but the women are amazing. And in the winter, they can't just hunt in the summer. They have to hunt in the winter and make big holes in the ice, and they ice fish. And they pull out big, beautiful Arctic char that are like, they're amazing. They taste amazing. They're beautiful. The first one I ate was stuffed and coated. With this. Oh, and the whale is like, the whale they eat is they snack on it like you and I would calamari. It's rubbery and texture like that. And they take it and they dip it in a whale sauce that they take right from there and eat it. And it's tremendous. Some of their diet, and a lot of their diet, they eat raw as much or more than they eat cooked food. They do cook food for us, and a lot of them today do eat cooked food and things they buy in the co-op and snacks and other things like we're used to here in the rest of North America. But they also still have community meals and places where they sit out, and they all bring part of what they've caught or killed and butchered and used. And they sit around like in a big auditorium, and they eat and fellowship community style for holidays and festivals where they celebrate music and traditions and dance. And it's just a tremendous culture. And I want to introduce you to some of that culture. And that's what I intend to do in the coming year. Not just visiting there and going there and sending teams as we have in the past and partnering with Arctic Missions. But I want to start something called the Northern Lights. And I'm going to interview leaders from the North who can speak to us and talk to us about this amazing journey that they have been on as the first people in the North for thousands of years. So I want to bring you face to face with the reality. When I'm there and I'm with them, and sometimes they don't hear a lot from us in the United States and Canada, in what they would consider the south part of North America. And sometimes they're not sure if we even care. Especially when we send the critical, crazy things about environment that don't make any sense at all. They're just some environmentalists trying to raise money. Believe me, the polar bear has great meaning in the north and great need, but they also are an animal that at times hunts man and is extremely dangerous. So you are looking at it from a South perspective or an environmentalist perspective. They're looking at it as the safety of their villages and homes and children. And they are an animal that when you go out and hunt them, they turn the tide and hunt you. They're very intelligent. They feast on seals. So where the seal are running big, so are the polar bear. And as the ice begins to break up, they lay on their chest on the ice and balance themselves on a piece of ice. And they watch in the water. And as a char comes by, they reach in, or another fish that they may like, but the char they really like, reach in and snatch that thing right out of the water. And they eat it. That's how they hunt. They balance themselves on the ground. It's amazing the things that you see there. All the animals in nature, the lack of nature, the lack of grass and flowers and plants, the power of berries, the need for dirt when you're in an environment that is primarily stone. So a little piece of dirt can be cultivated in amazing ways. They've conquered nature, and they live on the land. I'm telling you, the times that I'm going to share with you about that, as I do, I'm going to do a new Prophetic Edge, separate, that's going to be called Northern Lights. That's going to celebrate the Inuit culture, First Nations people, to celebrate them and the victories they've won, their culture, their tradition, and give you an opportunity to hear their journey. I don't want you to think it's going to happen like next week. By the way, I got a lot on my plate. We got a lot of things going on right now. We are in a strategic moment. But this is our step forward that we are planning on what we're going to bring to you. That they are the gatekeepers to the north. They are spiritual leaders. They are great intercessors. They are tremendously spiritually gifted. They're wonderful people. They're spiritual people. And you're going to enjoy them. And you're going to enjoy the stories and the testimonies of how they came to Christ and how Christ made himself real to them. So I'm looking forward to the future. And I just want to thank everybody involved, all the pastors in Cute and David Elliott, Joshua Mills, who was a significant partner and player, all the people of Eagle Worldwide who have been supportive and gone there and sent there and prayed for us while we're there, all of our own intercessors, and of course, Pastor Maeve and her group, and she's gone up and done women's conferences and partners conference, everything you could think of. So she's been there many, many times too. I just want to thank everybody involved. I want to thank you for the journey. I want to thank you for the fellowship. I want to thank you for walking with us, and I want to honor you on your journey. I want you to know I pray for you, and I love you, and I appreciate you in every possible way. And you that are watching, I love you too. And in this new moment, embrace the new that God's doing. Let's celebrate the nations, because the nations are on his heart. Tribes and tongues and nations, and the barriers need to come down, and we need to walk together. Whether I'm in South or Central America, if I'm in Costa Rica or Brazil, or if I'm in Europe, I'm in France or in the Philippines and in Asia. If I'm in the islands of the Caribbean, People are people. They may dress different. They may worship or sing different. They may have a different language. But in here, where it matters, we are people. We are one. Let's bring these barriers down and get to know one another. And that's going to be my objective on the Prophetic Edge, Northern Lights, is to give you an opportunity to meet them and know them the way I have, so that you can love and respect them and honor them in their journey and be blessed the way I've been blessed. Thank you for joining us on From the Prophetic Edge. Have a wonderful day, and God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your Holy Week. Press in. You know what, where you're stepping, a friend of mine, Glenn Gorland, just put something up that talked about the resurrection power of Christ and how in this Holy Week we celebrate his death, humanity, sacrifice, proving that he was in fact all man. And then we celebrate the resurrection, prove and validating that he is God. So it is a great and the most holy week on the calendar. Embrace him. Spend your time with him. When you're with your family, bless them and share the love of Jesus Christ. You have a wonderful day now, and God bless you.